also provide an update on the review panel on Afghanistan and what work has been done there thus far?
Yeah, we've got a great team coming together, most of whom will be here in July. And Haley, I think that's a great question. I just want to say, our strategic outset here for this review. You think back to the Vietnam War and helicopters on embassies, and I got to believe that there were a lot of first lieutenants, captains, majors who witnessed that, who fought in that war and thought, boy, I wish we could have ended this war differently. And some of those first lieutenants, captains, majors, I'm sure stayed in and became 1-star, 2-star, 3-star generals, and then maybe led and commanded an Operation Desert Storm. And I find that interesting because in Operation Desert Storm, there's a clear mission, clear end state, American troops withdrawn when that end state was realized. And I feel like many of those 1-star, 2-star, 3-star generals perhaps retired after Desert Storm, and a lot of that institutional knowledge and that pain that was experienced during the withdrawal in Vietnam was probably lost. And then flash forward 10 years, 9/11 happens, 20 years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we find ourselves at the end of the Afghan war in a remarkably similar situation that we were in Vietnam. So the question that I have here, and that the department has, is what happened? Like, how do we as a department make sure that something like in Vietnam and something there again that happened in Afghanistan never happens again? Helicopters and embassies in Vietnam, helicopters and embassies in Afghanistan is just not the desired end state that we were looking for in those conflicts. And so how do we get an assessment at the tactical, strategic, and maybe presidential level? The questions that were, how was intel reported during the withdrawal? How do we structure our report in the micro at the tactical level to answer a lot of the questions that the American people had, like questions like, why did we abandon Bagram? How did we end up in Kandahar? All of these questions are the types of questions that we're going to be asking. But ultimately it's about weaving these lessons learned into doctrine. And the idea that maybe we can use this review to reform the way that we evaluate and promote young non-commissioned officers and young officers. Like, for example, if you read the Afghan reports that came out every June, regardless of who the task force commander was in Afghanistan, those reviews were remarkably similar. But the end state was a disaster. So I think if you think back to my time in Afghanistan as a young commander giving battlefield update briefs as a captain to my battalion commander, if I were constantly saying that my area of operations was a disaster, it didn't have the ammo or troops that I needed to accomplish the mission, the likelihood of me getting promoted was probably not great. So how do we set the conditions here in the department to create a sense of honesty where our officers are reporting what they believe to be accuracy? They're concerned about maybe their area of operations. They're concerned about the truth and maybe not less about their careers. And that's not an indictment on the officers in the DOD. It's just the way that our system is constructed. And so we've got a great team that we've put together, many of whom will start in July, where the real work will start. I just had a great meeting with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs about this and how the Joint Staff can help collaborate on this. But I'm very optimistic about where we're going with this review, Haley.
Have you started interviews for this report? Or
oh, sure, yeah.
What all has happened?
Yeah, I mean, we've done interviews, we've had meetings. I mean, we're getting a lot done. I mean, I feel really good about it.